my video tutorials on PowerShell. We're going to talk about logic statements. That's the ability to funnel logic into your scripts to have your scripts follow different paths and do different things based on conditions. This is not a novel concept of PowerShell. Most languages have this capability, but it's important to understand what's the syntax and how to use it. So let's discuss logic statements. And as always in these tutorials, I'm going to be doing them on my Ubuntu box. I do this to show that Linux, I should use this with Linux because we all know that PowerShell is a powerful tool for system administrators on Windows, but I also want to bring to light to people's understanding that PowerShell has evolved over the years. It is now an open source project, and you can actually download the packages and run PowerShell right within Bash and Terminal in Linux and in Mac. Normally I run in terminal, but for this, the cases here, some of these things are going to get a little more complicated. It's one thing when you're writing a single line file in PowerShell, but these are going to be multi-line, and so I'm going to use a tool called Visual Studio Code. I hope one day to do a video on Visual Studio Code. It is an amazing editor for all sorts of languages. Again, Visual Studio Code, native on my Ubuntu box, so no issues. And I'm going to bring this up. Visual Studio Code. I'm going to show how to make, I'm going to make a new text file. And if I select a language, I have all these different languages I can use in there. I'm just going to type PowerShell. And now I'll have a code editing that will color code my things based off PowerShell. All right, let's move forward with logic. First thing we're going to do is the conditional logic if, else statement. The syntax is pretty straightforward. There's a lot of little crazy characters in there. Just get past that. They'll start to become, you'll start getting used to it. But the principle is, we'll do the most basic, the if. You do an if, and then you put parentheses, and you put a condition. In this case, we're saying variable A, and I wrote equals. That's not a really good thing because you don't actually use equals, use tac eq. But anyway, we'll do that. We'll actually write this correctly when we write our in Visual Studio Code. And then you put these little, you close the parentheses, put little squirrely brackets here, and then you do something in there. You write the code to make it do something. It's that principle. You write if, parentheses, the condition, and then squirrely brackets, action to be taken if it equates to true. So let's do that. I'm going to write $A equals 1, $B equals 1, and then we're going to go, if A equals B, right host, they match. And so if I do that, I come over here, execute the little script. I'll clear this, and then I'll run it again so you can see the code running. And it comes back and it says, it's going to basically execute all the code. They match. If I switch this and I go to 2, they're not going to match. And I run the code. And notice I don't get back a they match because they don't. And so that is the if statement in a simple nutshell. And then we're going to move over to the next one. Now an else if. This is so you have, okay, if it's this, do this. But if it's this situation, do something different. And so let's show this else if statement here. Same principle though as the if. You go else if, you put your condition, and then you put your brackets. And so then let's see that. And so I'm just going to put it right after this bracket. I'm going to type else, and you can even see it completes there. Notice it's telling me put your condition in there. That's one of the things that's really cool about Visual Studio Code. It will help you, and it's already put my squirrely brackets down. And I'm going to go $A equals $C. And so let's give a $C here. $C equals 1. And now we put the action in there, and I'm going to write right host C matches A. And I'm just going to do something like that. We'll go clear down here so that we don't mess up anything that we're writing. I might move this up just a little bit. And if I hit play, we get C matches A. We're first check, does A equal B? No, they do not. So let's go look and see if A equals C. And yes, they do, so it writes that command. The last little piece in this if-then statement, if else if, is the else statement, which is the catch-all. You don't want to have to write down every possible condition, and so you can use the else statement. And that's what we got going on here with this else. We'll put our stuff here in catch-all, and we'll show it. And so we'll actually, I meant to hit the here, we'll just add it on. Notice with else, again, it auto-completes. This does not have a condition statement. You do not put a condition on an else. You only put conditions on if and else if. Else is the gotcha catch-all, so you don't need to define anything. And I'm just going to write here, nothing matched. And we're going to turn this into 3. So when we go through this statement, the way it works, does A equal B? No. Does A equal C? No. So it should come into this else statement. We'll clear this out and let's run it. Nothing matched, exactly like we expected. Perfect, so that is the concept behind if, else. We can keep on piling on these else ifs. You only get one if, and then every other thing is else if. And so we could go here and we could say, does B equal C? Keep on adding them, else if, and et cetera, et cetera. But we're not going to do that for this. We got enough conditions here, and that's your flow of logic. All right, then next one we're gonna do is switches. Switches, I'm gonna write them up here just so I have a talking point. Switches are alternatives to if statements. You can use one or the other. Switches are a quick way to test multiple scenarios, just like an if. A lot of it is syntax, but technically, if you are looking for speed, as a general rule, switches are a little bit faster than if-thens. As a general rule, even knowing that, to me, just the way I grew up learning programming languages, and I don't use switches very often, I always use if-then. But if speed is your ultimate goal, or you like the way the syntax is written on a switch, by all means use it. Here's the syntax for a switch, and it's very similar to the principle of a if statement, but just slightly different. So we have our value here. You use the keyword switch, you write your condition, but in this case, notice it's not that it's, you don't say X equals something, you just write, we're going to evaluate this string, this variable. And then we're gonna go, we put in our squiggly brackets, if it matches this value, we're gonna do whatever's in these brackets. If it matches this value, we're gonna do whatever is in these brackets. And default, we're going to do, that's kind of like the else statement. It's your gotcha, it's your catch-all statement. So let's put this in. I'm just gonna copy and paste this code. Copy, I'm gonna come over to my Visual Studio Code, and I'm just gonna overwrite this. And you'll notice we got a nice little character for switch and default because those are here. Let's flip this. Well, no, we'll do it first. All right, so it's gonna come through, it's gonna look at the value X, and it's gonna say, are you equal to value A? And that would be not true, so it's not gonna do value A. Let's just fit, I'm gonna put this option A, option B, so you can see the difference, because these two wrote the same way, so it'd be very difficult to notice the difference. And so if this is working right, we're going to not do the first thing, but we're going to do the next thing, and we're going to see written to our screen something about option B. So we run that. We see option B value B equals that. Yep, exactly. Flip this to value A, run the code, and it works just like that. If we flip this to, I'm just going to write the words, I'm going to just put C right there. Value doesn't match any of the values, so it falls into this default bucket. So if, then, if, else if, else. switches. They're very similar. They're going to handle the logic. You'll call out the command, you'll do the conditions in parentheses, and then you'll put what goes on inside, and it allows you to flow your logic. So certain based on conditions, you're going to follow different paths, giving you logical flow to your scripts. I hope this is helpful. I hope this increases your ability of using PowerShell at home and at work. And if this video was useful to you, give me a good thumbs up. Love it if you subscribe to the channel. I continue to put out videos. If subscribing, you'll see my latest videos as they come out. And hope you'll watch more of my videos.